All right. Hello, everyone. First off, I apologize for getting this out a few days late. I think I sent a message letting you guys know that I did have some work being done in my office, which pushed everything back like 4 or 5 days. And then once I finally got back into the office, um, I had a family emergency yesterday. So when it rains, it pours, but I'm getting back on track and I'll have two presentations for you guys this week. So we will be back on track completely. But, anyways, today I'm going to be talking about posing and flow and tips and tricks on how to sharpen your skills, find more flow, help your posing, etc. So I made a little PowerPoint and I will also be showing you some examples on Pinterest. So let me move my little person over here. So first off, we have examples of poses per modeling type. So if you were not a part of the modeling workshop, I just looked in the viewfinder and I just look so ragged right now. But like I said, I had a family emergency yesterday. I was crying all day, not gonna lie with you guys. So my face feels so bloated. I feel dehydrated. I'm in pajamas. You know, it is what it is. I'm just happy to be here with you guys. So, yeah, sometimes I look like this. And if you've known me for a while, sometimes I look, all put together, and then sometimes I look like this. So, now I'm not going to be able to stop looking at myself. But, anyways, let me go ahead. If you weren't part of the modeling workshop in the fall, then you may not know all the different types of modeling. So I'm just going to go over those really quick and show examples of different kinds of posing. So let me exit this really fast. So the first type of posing we're going to be talking about is editorial posing. So I like to use Pinterest, and you can just type in editorial posing and editorial posing. So when we talk about editorials, we're talking about sets of images that are typically featured in magazines or print or web or anything like that, but it has a specific theme and several looks typically. Editorial posing is all about lots of, unique posing. We have lots of anchor points, which we're going to talk about later. You can kind of do anything with editorial posing, but just make it sharp, it stands out, things like that. So the basics of editorial posing, you can really do some research on Pinterest and look. You can also look at magazines and check out editorials there. But yeah, then we've got commercial modeling, or e-com is also what we refer to it as. Excuse me, I have hiccups now. And so this is all about selling something. So it's more like, let's see, stuff like this, stuff like up here is a lot of what commercial and e-com looks like. So it's typically studio work. I am seeing more outdoor work, but it's typically studio work, usually full body, usually selling an outfit or an item, accessory, etc. And it's a lot more cheerful, smiley. Sometimes you have some serious looks, but it's all about selling. Then we have athletic modeling. So things like this, this. This is all about showing, a sporty side, obviously. A lot of it is full body. A lot of it is in athletic poses, or to demonstrate, pretending like you're at a track or anything like that. And then we've got, let me not click, okay. Then we've got swimsuit or swimwear. Let's see, some good. A lot of this stuff is like Instagram posing on here, but let's see. Like this is really classic kind of swimwear posing. A lot of it is very, it appeals, there's two different kinds, and I talked about this a little bit in detail on the modeling workshop, but there's modeling that may be suited towards men's, what's it called? Just men's desires and things like that. So it's more sexy, it's maybe more provocative, and then versus women's appeals, which is more fantasy like, tropical vacations kind of thing. And a lot of times swimwear kind of meets in the middle of those two things. So it'll be like sexy, provocative, right? But like on a tropical island or something like that. So, you know, things like this, Sports Illustrated. And then we've got beauty modeling. So we call it beauty modeling in the modeling world, but on, if you're gonna look it up on Pinterest, I recommend saying skincare, because beauty modeling doesn't really come up with anything, but it's stuff like this, headshots. It's a lot of stuff zoomed in on the face, sometimes collarbone up, but a lot of times just up from the chin and up. We use in beauty modeling a lot of hands. Hand placements are really important, and really intensity in the eyes, or lots of intensity in the eyes. Okay, and last but not least is parts modeling. When we refer to parts modeling, we're talking about a part of your body. Typically it's the hands, sometimes it can be feet or something like that. But hands, and I think this is pretty straightforward as far as what the posing looks like. So you guys can do your own research on that, but I thought I would show it to you. So let's get back into our presentation. Okay, so those were all the types of modelings and some examples of different modeling poses. And you guys can see the overall kind of theme of what that looks like. So hopefully that helps you guys narrow down what kind of posing you're interested in and posing you can try in the future. Okay, let's talk about anchor points. It's something that I talk about quite often. What are anchor points? Okay, so anchor points are a point on your body which a limb touches, typically a hand or a foot. So that can be any of these ones over here on the side, or even my little cartoon. So on the hair, on the neck, on the face, in the pocket, over the head, up here like this. It's literally anything. Here's an anchor point. Here's an anchor point. Here's an anchor point. You know, anything like that is an anchor point. So a lot of you guys will hear me talk about that in your guys' critiques, and how much repetition you have in the anchor points. If you're using anchor points, you know, you don't want to just stand there with your hands down at your side. You want to be moving. And so it's really important to practice changing your anchor points. And this is going to be really helpful when you practice posing. So you don't have to come up with an entire new pose every single, you know, time you pose. You can just simply change an anchor point, okay? So practice changing an anchor point. Maybe practice seeing, staying in one pose and seeing how many different anchor points you can come up with your hands, and then staying in one pose and add in a foot. And when I talk about a foot, I don't have any examples here, but basically if you were to be standing on both legs and then shift your weight onto one leg and pull your foot up and, you know, lean it on the inside of your other leg, if that makes sense, make a little triangle. That would be how you use like an anchor point like that. That makes sense. So that's what anchor points are. And then let's talk about more how to kind of hone in your skills and get some good posing techniques down. So my biggest tip for you guys when having your posing get better and practicing your posing and finding growth in your posing would be to have a daily, I really recommend daily, but I know that's not attainable for everyone, or weekly posing routine. So 5 to 10 minutes, put on some music, get in front of the mirror, and just pretend like you're at a photo shoot. Make sure you're uninterrupted during this time, and just change poses about every 5 seconds. Try to also work, like every time you do this, maybe pull up 5 poses on your phone that are new or something, or inspo, and work those poses in too. So this is going to really not only help you be creative with posing in the future and feel more comfortable posing in the future, but also find flow. So let's talk a little bit about flow as well. So flow I'm not sure if I have oh yeah, I do. Okay, we'll talk about flow in a second. So it's really important to practice your posing. This is probably the number one way that you can get more comfortable in front of the camera and find like lots of growth in your posing without being in front of the camera. So whatever that looks like for you, just try to pose, hold the pose for about 5 seconds and then change. And I'll explain why that is in our flow slide up next. But I really, really, really recommend doing that. And another really great tip too is if you ever want to film yourself, like you never even have to show anyone the video. You could just film yourself doing it and watch how it looks. And if you're in front of a mirror, you might not need to do that, but it also helps to be able to pay attention to things that you might not see in real time, such as a facial expression. I know it's really common, especially for newer models, when they're posing and flowing through poses. Once they run out of poses, sometimes you can see it on your face, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But if you want to get paid modeling jobs one day, then you will have to just work on not showing it as much. Or maybe instead of showing it on your face, talking through it or something like that. But if you do film it, you can like go back and watch for those things, if that makes sense. So I really, really, really recommend a daily or weekly posing routine. So now let's talk about flow and how to find it and what it means. So when I'm referring to flow, I'm talking about the natural rhythm, the way that you move through poses. I can be referring to movement, how comfortable you are, and your repetition, all in flow. Those are all three important things through flow. So it's a really, really important that all of you guys start finding more flow when you're shooting. And basically what that means is just using more, I guess I meant to say using less direction, but I'm reading this and it says using more direction. Or let me see. Okay, using less direction, not more, using less direction from me and constantly changing your poses. So let's say I set up a pose for you, and other photographers will also do this. Some photographers do it more than others. Some don't help set up poses, but I think it's important for us to work together as a photographer. But when you're posing, say I set up a pose for you, okay? Feel free to move through it. And it's exactly like your posing routine. Hold the pose for about 5 seconds, change your anchor point. Hold the pose for about 5 seconds, change your facial expression or change your the direction of your face or change, anything. Like whenever I talk about head on a swivel, I'm referring to something like this, obviously slower. But change up those things, take a thinner stance, take a wider stance, switch directions like this, switch directions like this, anything like that. And Ethan's calling me right now. 1 second. Hey, I'm doing a presentation.
Oh, okay, sir.
That's okay. Okay, sounds good. Bye. So just doing anything like that and constantly changing your pose. You don't need to completely change the entire pose. But when I'm talking about flow, feel free to move an anchor point and keep doing it. And that will help so much. So basically what you'll be doing when you're flowing, when shooting, is doing a posing routine. So that's why it's really important to practice a posing routine because you're basically going to be doing that, if that makes sense. So try to have some kind of count in your mind as to when you're going to change an anchor point or change something about the pose. And a lot of you guys do that. I just want to see you guys do it more and do it a little bit quicker and things like that. So feel free to move any part of the body and you don't have to change the entire pose. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Let's see. When practicing your posing routine, try to see how many poses you can glide. Gliding is so important. Glide through without resetting. So pick a pose and then see how what you can do for as long as you can without completely being like, okay, new pose. Okay. You can learn to glide by moving your anchor points, stepping a foot out, changing your expression, shifting weight, etc. Okay, let's talk about the importance of finding flow. I think this is the last slide. So, importance of finding flow and practicing your posing. So, since you are the model, like you are in charge of your growth. You are the only one in charge of how much growth you see in your posing, how much growth you see in your comfort, how much growth you see in your um, flow, anything like that. As a photographer, it's really important, and I think this kind of puts into perspective as well. We can't photograph you if you are moving too fast. So if you're like, instead of waiting 5 seconds, say you wait 1 second. We shoot when we're shooting at on our cameras. We shoot if you're shooting a manual, which photographer should be. um, if you're shooting a manual, we're shooting at a fraction of a second. Now, if we get down or if we get up to, an 80th of a second, a 60th of a second, and that's on us. But if we are shooting at that rate, especially in lower light conditions, you will be blurry in the picture. And it makes it really hard to shoot because then as a photographer, we have to adjust our settings to maybe deal with the lower light, or we can raise other settings to make the light brighter, but then we're going to lose something. So we're going to add more grain to the image where it's going to seem a little bit more pixelated, things like that. So that's why it's important to have a really natural flow that's not too fast and not too slow, if that makes sense, because it helps us and it also helps you feel more comfortable, if that makes sense. And then if you don't move at all, photographers aren't going to want to shoot with you because they're going to have to direct every single pose. And for me, as a photographer, this is just personal, but not every photographer's like that. I don't mind working with you guys through every single pose. Um, I think that a lot of photographers don't feel that way. So that's why it's really important for you to find your natural flow and practice your posing so that you can be the best model that you can be, if that makes sense. So I hope that this little presentation helped in some way. I hope that you guys can find something from this. And if you have any questions, just let me know. I'd be happy to send you more information about posing, any additional resources. And if you would like that, just message me and I can create a little group chat of everyone who needs more resources. And it's totally fine if you want more from this, and I can send you some more information on posing. If that is it, I think that's my last slide. All right, well, I will see you guys later on this week, and I hope that you guys have a great rest of your week. And yeah, bye. I'm still not like used to recording myself.